All right, I'm gonna hit the button in 3, 2, 1. And we are live. Welcome to BAM Fight Club. I'm Colby. This is Fern, and we are previewing UFC 281 Adesanya versus Pereira, taking place November 12th, Saturday, today, in just about 30 minutes at Madison Square Garden in New York, New York. Early prelims at 3 o'clock Pacific. Main card is at 7 on pay-per-view. And we're just going to jump right into the main card. There's only 5 fights on the main card. And first up is Dan Hooker versus Claudio Puelles. And Dan Hooker, man, he's had a rough run. He's coming off of 2 losses. Last loss against Arnold Allen in the first round. Before that, Islam Makhachev in the first round. He had a win before that, and then two losses prior to that to Chandler and Poirier. Yeah, I really don't know what to think. I mean, the guys that Dan has lost to, incredibly talented guys. So it's not like it's not like fighting ranked 15 guys. It's the top 5 in one of the hardest divisions, if not the hardest division in the UFC. And Puelles, he's coming off of a 5-fight win streak. So in terms of the mental game, it seems like all the momentum is with Puelles. If he beats Dan Hooker, he's going to have a shot at probably one of the guys in the top 5, which Dan Hooker, I believe, is no longer in the top 5. What are your thoughts on this one, Fern? It seems like a just typical striker versus grappler match. You know, Puelles has got the strong grappling background, wins by submissions, things like that. Dan Hooker, known for mostly his stand-up. What are you thinking on this fight?
Man, at one point, Dan Hooker was up and coming, like on his path to the title, and he had a great win against Nasrat Haqparast. That was a great back and forth. And then, he's lost the last 2 since then. Losing to Michael Chandler, I think, like, essentially, he was Michael Chandler's debut, And I really wish that he would have done better in that fight. Because, he's from a strong camp, was talking smack, like, I'm going to show this guy that he doesn't belong in UFC. And it was shown the opposite. Chandler, I feel like took, like, we talk about fighters taking each other's energy and swag and whatever, and I feel like Chandler took Hooker's energy and everything. With Puelles, I expect him to come out and just be very smart. I think Hooker at this point, trains with a great camp. He's going to have a strategy. He's going to look to win. I don't see him trying to go for a finish because I don't think he wants to get finished. And, his last win having been a finish in the first round, it's just he's going to be a lot more tentative, I think. With Puelles, I don't really know much about him besides he's going to be an up-and-coming guy. He's Peruvian. You have these fighters who are now, like, you have Chito Vera from, like, Ecuador, Puelles from Peru. Like, it's UFC's expanding in, like, Latin America, so I'm excited about that. This one is, I don't know who to call for. I think I might have picked Hooker on my DraftKings just because of, like, nostalgia to be like, he still got it, but
Yeah. And shout out real quick to Philip in the chat. Puelles, he says Puelles is having 3 knee bar submissions in the UFC is insane. So that's what I say. I think it's the submission game versus the striking game. And in terms of the mental battle, like I said, it seems like all the momentum is with Puelles. And I forgot to mention on the start. So the odds on this one are pretty close. Dan Hooker is favored to win, negative 155. It's just really hard it's really hard to make that pick after having 4 losses out of 5. We've seen a lot of times, guys get their shot at the championship. I'm thinking of another person who's got like a similar story, Dominic Reyes, where Dominic Reyes was on a tear and just seemed like, he was the man all the way up to that championship fight, and then just kind of has fallen off since then. And he's fighting tonight on the prelims. And I feel like it's got to be hard. You're at the very pinnacle. You work your whole career to get that title shot. You lose, and then you lose again, and you're on that downward trajectory to be able to turn it around. This is going to be a pretty big test, I feel like, for Dan Hooker, because Claudio is not ranked higher than him. So if he loses, it's going to be Yeah, it's going to be really tough. I don't know who to pick on this one. I'm kind of leaning towards Claudio just because of the momentum, and he's got that submission game. And I think what you said is also going to play a part, which is Hooker is going to be trying to avoid getting finished, and therefore maybe not as aggressive, and that's going to play to Claudio's favor.
Yeah, this is definitely looking at the stats, a striker versus grappler matchup. Puelles has, almost triple the takedown average. Takedown accuracy about the same. Significant strikes. Hooker's got 4.91 to 199 for Puelles. So like you can kind of see what their strategy is going to be. I just I hope Hooker does something like you can't. You're training with the top level guy, like the best guy in the world by far, and he just hasn't shown it. like you have these people that you train with. That's why you go to a huge fight camp, is to have the preparation and be like, hey, I go in a fight, like nothing can surprise me. He's getting surprised. like oh man.
Yeah. I mean, the way he got caught by Chandler, like, yeah, I don't think there was expectation that Chandler would be coming out of the gate, heavy because he's that type of fighter, but he just wasn't ready for it. Uh, so you said you picked Dan Hooker to win on this one.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did on my DraftKings as well.
Yeah, I feel like the odds are maybe um very close. I feel like it could go either way. I'm not going to be surprised if it goes either way. But let's go ahead and get into the next fight between Frankie Edgar and Chris Gutierrez. Uh, Frankie Edgar coming in as the plus 200 underdog versus Gutierrez at negative 240. And Frankie Edgar, also another guy who's had a rough run. He's also lost 4 out of his last 5 matches. One of those matches was a title fight against Max Holloway. And, more recently, he's lost to Sanhagen and to Marlon Vera. With Gutierrez, he's coming off of, he had a draw, but if you look at the last 7 fights, he's won 6 out of 7 and had a draw in one of those against Cody Durden. And he's coming off a win against a few guys whose names I'm not even familiar with, but I am familiar with Gutierrez. So this one will be interesting because Frankie Edgar, another one of those guys, legends in the sport, who's been around for a long time, has a ton of experience. Gutierrez, not as well known, but also a long time veteran. This is his, I think, 8th match in the UFC, but he's been fighting all the way back since 2013. And this is in the bantamweight division. So these, super lightweights, always fun to watch from a technical standpoint. It seems like, just like in the last match, the momentum is all on one guy's side. It's not like, they've been had wins and losses mixed in. It seems like the mental game maybe is in favor of Gutierrez, but Frankie Edgar, I just can never count that guy out. So with him as the underdog, I feel like it might be worth putting some money on Frankie Edgar. What are your thoughts?
Frankie Edgar is my pick on my DraftKings. Just for nostalgia purposes, like I will always love him. That old, that what do they call it? The old guard of UFC. These guys are all retiring, phasing out, like at the end of their careers. And, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't he supposed to retire? This is his retirement fight, right?
Oh, is it? I no,
I believe
I
that's
did
kind of
not.
what's been insinuated. But, but looking at Chris Gutierrez's record, 18-3-2, I'm like, damn, man, like put him, this is where people make the case for like we need to have a Legends fighting league, like, have people with high mileage
Like
fighting each
like
other.
Mike Tyson was talking about, yeah.
Because man, like, and then Chris Gutierrez has like double the KO ratio as him, like more significant strikes. Frankie's absorbing more significant strikes,
Yeah. With
grappling.
with those stats, I just want to say real quick. Remember, it matters with those stats who you're fighting against, and Frankie Edgar. I don't know how many title fights he's had in the UFC alone. 6, 7, 8. So 8 of those are title fights. So he's fighting the very
Yeah,
best of the division. With Gutierrez, he's only got um, like I said, about seven or eight fights in the UFC, and has not been fighting the top of the division.
Yeah,
So
no
just
namers
take
for
the
sure.
stats, yeah, a little bit with a grain of salt there.
Yeah, looking at this, Frankie Edgar's record, man, like these guys are all the top. Like he hasn't had an easy fight since, damn, I'm Matt Veach in '09 on the Ultimate
Yeah,
Fighter finale. Like,
yeah, yeah. Because if you just go back 10 years on Frankie Edgar, and here's some of the names. Like I said, most recently Corey Sandhagen, Pedro Munez, Max Holloway, Cub Swanson, Brian Ortega. Jeremy Stevens, Jose Aldo, Chad Mendez, Faber, it's BJ Penn, like Charles Oliveira, who he has a win over. So I mean,
yeah,
um, this guy's that's why I say it's hard to bet against him, but the momentum again is definitely not in his favor. Jacob in chat says he beat BJ 3 times. Yeah, so you can't ever count this guy out. I feel like, I thought he would. Many people probably would have said he was too old. 5 years ago, and then he, beats Pedro Munez, beats Cub Swanson since then, and Jeremy Stevens. Um, so, so is you said your money's on Frankie Edgar on this one?
Frankie Edgar, I want him to go out. Just, he definitely has the boxing, the footwork, all that stuff. He to me was kind of like a Dominic Cruz back in the day, just so much footwork, so much work ethic, like a Clay Guida type of fighter who just doesn't stop moving. Like, and it was impossible for people to knock him out. And then, recently he's been, since the Brian Ortega loss, I'd say like that's kind of um determined it. But he has a close loss, a loss to Max Holloway in 2019, and we know how great Max Holloway has become. Like I think it's going to be
Yeah.
a good thing for him to show out, and definitely excited about it.
Yeah, and for the money again, Frankie Edgar at plus 200. It's kind of hard to pass that up. So, um, let's see here. We've only got a short time left before the fights. We'll try to finish this off. We'll get into Dustin Poirier versus Michael Chandler. Poirier coming in as a negative 220 favorite. Chandler plus 180 underdog. And you go ahead and kick us off with your analysis on this one, Fern.
I think Poirier has shown these last couple fights that his stand-up level is just evolving, improving. This to me, like I'm picking Poirier because I want to see him fight for the title or fight those top guys. Chandler, nothing, not taking anything away from him, but he is, fighting. He's taking a lot of damage in the fights that he's fighting, and I don't know how long he can sustain that, especially with somebody with as sharp of boxing as Poirier has. Poirier has shown, his hands against McGregor, which everyone thinks like has the best, boxing in the division. But against Charles Oliveira, same thing, dropped him and then, ended up on the losing end. I definitely want to see Poirier fight for the title or just keep fighting big name fights. I think this is going to be like fight of the night by far. It's got to be. There's no way these guys are going to go out there and hold back. For Chandler, I think he's getting up there in age and and damage. Like I think it's just for him just money fights at this point. Like he's going to come out, he's going to show off, he's going to like show his skills. He's not going to give up. But that last fight against Tony Ferguson, to me he was losing up until that point, you know, and Tony doesn't have the stand up that Poirier does, and so I want to see how he can adapt. He's gonna have to just keep moving. I expect him to do like calf kicks to try to slow Poirier down. But Poirier just has the smoother, cleaner boxing, man. Like that camp has prepared him
Yeah.
and turned him into a monster.
Yeah, I feel similar. I feel like Poirier's definitely got the edge in terms of technique, and like you mentioned, going up against McGregor multiple times, like he knows how to the strategy to deal with a guy who's got the knockout power, and he's also got a pretty good chin now that he's not cutting as much weight. I feel like it's not as big of an issue as it was like in the McGregor um, first match against McGregor, where he was a weight class lower. And Poirier's coming off a loss against Charles Oliveira. I don't think he took really a lot of damage. He was, I think, in my opinion, winning that match
Yeah,
against Oliveira before he ended up getting submitted. Uh, he was just losing the grappling game there. And Chandler, he's got that wild card. Anytime he could end it with his power, like we saw against Tony Ferguson, he could be losing the whole thing and then just one shot, just destroy him. He sent Tony Ferguson into another dimension with that kick. And did you see the slow mo zoom in on Tony Ferguson's face and how it deformed when he got kicked in the face by Chandler, that soccer kick? It was that was so brutal
Who else
to
had one of
know that.
those recently? Was it Frankie Edgar? Like the pictures when he got the front kick knockout, like was just as bad.
Are you talking about the Corey Sandhagen, the knee to the?
No, he had like an up kick that was like photoshopped everywhere for a while.
Oh,
I'll have to
okay.
go back and look at that. But yeah, it was like one of his first losses.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, so this one, I agree. Possibly the fight of the night. Definitely, I think is going to be the best fight on the main card. Um, well, I'm not going to get into the. We'll go into the other two next. But so I'm picking Poirier. You're picking Poirier. Uh, and again, wouldn't be surprised if Chandler, landed that one shot and just knocked Poirier out in the second round or something. Uh, Somebody in the chat says I saw that soccer kick in person. Cheeto.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
that was a
Okay.
crazy one. Hey, and shout out
Thank
to the new people in
you.
the chat, man. I
Yeah.
don't know any of you
Yeah.
guys. We only know Philip. Philip showing up,
I
and
know
we got
Jacob.
straight.
The
I'm
other
like,
one's A. I don't know who A is, but um all right. So yeah, I think that's possibly going to be a final night candidate. And a few minutes left. Let's go ahead and wrap it up with the last two. Carla Esparza versus Zhang Weili. Esparza's last fight, she's the champion now, but that last fight was, I don't know. I cannot recall the first fight that comes to mind that's even close to what her last fight was Adesanya versus Romero. If you remember that one,
where he
where
just
literally
stood and
nothing happened. There's like 5 strikes during the entire match. So that last fight, I feel like there's nothing to go off of other than Carla Esparza's not going to rush into anything. She's going to wait for the counter punching. Wei Li, I feel like, is not going to wait. She's going to be more aggressive. I feel like that will kind of play into Carla's strategy of wanting to counter and counter with the takedowns. To be clear, not countering with strikes necessarily. She's just going to be waiting for, I think, Whaley to throw those shots. Carla's going to want to shoot in. So unless Whaley is, I don't know what strategy Whaley can really do to avoid going to the ground with Carla, other than what Rose did, which is just sit back and do nothing and wait for Carla to do something, which would be horrible. I hope that does not happen again. That was so terrible to watch. But Whaley's coming off a win against Joanna. She had the 2 losses against Rose. Prior to that, the first loss against Rose was the kick to the face in the first round, where she went down. The second one went all 5 rounds with Rose, so she proved that in the face of loss, she can learn from it, come back, and do much better. And I don't think these two have not fought before, so we don't really have much to go off of with their past experiences between themselves. But Carla being the underdog at plus 280, that's pretty big underdog for the defending champion. What are your thoughts on this one?
I definitely want Wei Li to win. Like I Rose had been done a great job as a champion. I thought when the rematch that Rose lost. And so I wasn't surprised. I was actually glad when Rose lost in the Sparza fight because I was like, don't fight somebody like you fought Zhang, knock her out, and then like do a fight of the year contender, and then you just don't do anything. Um, so I for that reason I'm picking Zhang. Like fight her. Fight her, take it to her. Carla definitely has the wrestling, the grappling, but it looks like Zhang, on social media, you see she picked up Francis Ngannou. Like she is doing things. Was it Francis Ngannou or was it like Shaq? She picked up some big dude. And like
Oh yeah, I think it was Shaq.
because somebody else had
Yeah.
picked up Francis Ngannou, and but yeah, like she is strong, powerful, compact. I think she's faster, she's more dynamic. I just want to see it. I hope her team doesn't see the Rose Namajunas fight and be like, okay, that's kind of a strategy to nullify the wrestling, the grappling. No, like take it to her. You are gonna be the bigger fighter. You are the stronger fighter. You are known for landing punches and kicks, and let's see you implement that for sure. This is definitely, I think, going to be um, probably the women's fights have been impressing me all year. I'm gonna go with
Yeah.
that vibe and be like, this is either gonna be fight of the night, finish for Zhang, or it's gonna be a fight of the night regardless. Yeah, we're all hoping it's and new for sure.
Yeah. So Caitlin says Wei Lee. Whoever A is says Anu also. And I'm gonna actually go with the underdog action on this one because I think at plus 280, I think those odds, if you're betting, seem like pretty good odds to me. I feel like Carla is going to have the upper hand if she's able to take down Whaley, and I feel like Whaley's going to be too aggressive. It's going to play into Carla's style, and I feel like Carla's going to take it to the ground. It may not be the most exciting match for some people. I like the grappling myself, so I'll probably
Hmm.
enjoy it, but I'm expecting Carla to be able to get this to the ground and exert that control. So, uh, I as much as I'd like to see Whaley, just because she's newer, fresher face in the division, everything. I feel like with those odds, I'd be putting my money on Carla. And last up, we've got Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira. So this one is interesting. As soon as Pereira entered the division, I think we talked about, was this some uh, big plan from the UFC to get the only guy that knocked out Israel, into the UFC and rise him up through the ranks quickly to get him a title shot. And if you look at Pereira's record, he's only got 3 fights in the UFC, which is not the least fights for somebody to go into a title fight. If you remember, I think Chandler, his second fight in the UFC, I think was for championship.
Hmm.
But Pereira doesn't have any MMA championships that I'm aware of. I don't think he was, in kickboxing for a long time, switched over to MMA more recently. Um, the odds, negative 230 for Adesanya. I feel like those odds are closer than they've been for an Adesanya match in quite some time. What are you thinking on this one? Do you think Pereira is the boogeyman that's going to be haunting, come back from Israel's past and be able to repeat what he did? I don't know what it was, like 10 years ago or something, and exert that power. We've seen him knock out guys already at this few fights in the UFC.
Pereira,
Two of the three.
he's massive. He's already up to like 211 or something like that. Gained like 25 pounds overnight. uh in the training when like they were showing them, he was like standing next to Dominic Reyes, who is light heavyweight, and he's bigger than Dominic Reyes, and he's weighing like 230 going into fight camp. And I don't know how he makes weight. Good for him. He's obviously got a great team behind him. There was kind of a scare during weigh-ins where, he made it with like 2 minutes left or something like that. So he's a big guy. He kind of pushed it to the limit for sure. He's going to be a fighter that I think is going to be like a Kamzat, like in the next couple fights, he's going to be too big. But we'll see how Izzy responds to that because we've seen him fight bigger fighters and not have that success. Granted, Pereira doesn't have the wrestling of, um, who did he fight when he fought up? When Izzy did to try to go for the light heavyweight belt.
Oh,
Jan,
was it
right?
Young?
Yeah. And so you saw how he
Okay.
was just kept in check and control, but there's no way Pereira has that wrestling, that grappling. I'm going for Pereira. I want to
Yeah.
see a new champion. I want to see that continue. That rivalry will go on forever, I think. Especially like you can easily sell the rematch again, I think. Because it's just like this guy won the title so fast or got the title shot so fast. Cool. Let's let the champion, who's just considered by far one of the greatest fighters, in the UFC at this point of all time, let's see him get it back. So,
Yeah. And Izzy is on a 8 fight championship winning streak. Not to mention, I can't even count him. I guess it's all because his record's 23-1-0. Because the one against uh,
Jan.
Jan. Yeah. So he's got actually 7 championship wins in a row in the 180 five division one loss at the 205. But what's funny is if you go to the UFC website, UFC website actually shows Pereira as 206 pounds and Izzy at 185.
Yeah,
So
I have
I
it
don't
pulled
know,
up
he's
right
so
now.
big.
It's on there. It's 206. Yeah.
They I don't know if they go off his weight, some calculation automatically put him into that category or what. But yeah, as you mentioned, he's big, and Izzy, one of his advantages is his in many of his fights is the height advantage. Both of these guys are 6'4". Um, the reach advantage is he has 1 inch longer reach advantage, so nothing there has a half-inch leg reach advantage. So in terms of physical stats, these guys are very similar,
Equals.
except for
Yeah.
Pereira's just a little bit bigger, a little bit more filled in, so maybe a little bit stronger. So what are your thoughts on how this is going to play out? You think this is going to be a striking match because Pereira's not going to take him around? We know Izzy's not going to take him around, so it's going to be fought in the stand-up. Do you think Pereira is going to put Izzy in trouble? Because I feel like it's been a long time since we've seen Izzy in trouble. Do you think Izzy's going to be able to stay on the outside like he has this past several fights, and with his movement he'll be able to pick him apart from the outside? Or how do you think this is going to play out?
It honestly wouldn't surprise me to see either one of them try to take it to the ground because neither one of them are known as being strong on the
Oh,
ground. I could see that being
okay.
like, okay, hey, let me mix it up so that they have the takedowns to worry about, and then try to catch them with a head kick or something like that. But definitely, they're not strong wrestlers. I could see them switching it up and coming at them. I believe there was a recent Israel Adesanya fight where he like came out and like looked to grapple. Like he's learning, he's adapting. I definitely expect him to try to use everything to not lose. And that might be a thing he tries to use, because I hate to say it, like somebody knocked me out twice, I'm gonna be scared of them hitting me, like that. And then with the smaller
Yeah.
gloves, like you're gonna have that in the back of your mind, so try to throw in something that wasn't an option in those other fights: the grappling, the wrestling, the takedowns. I definitely see somebody, being brave and switching it up and testing the other person's skill.
Yeah, I mean that's got to be the last thing that Pereira would expect. I would imagine is a takedown from Izzy because Izzy's got I don't know 15, 20 fights whatever in the UFC, and his takedown average is zero, meaning he's literally never been scored for a takedown. His takedown accuracy zero, takedown average zero. Pereira is exactly the same, and they both have pretty good takedown defense. So yeah, if we're going based on history, it seems like there's no chance that there's going to be a takedown. So yeah, maybe that'll be interesting strategy that Izzy will be, try to put at least into Pereira's mind the possibility of a takedown, because that in and of itself, may open up some of the strikes. Um, so in terms of the pick, you think who's going to win this?
I Pereira by second round knockout. I think he's just gonna be
Oh,
able
okay.
to figure out the timing. He's a kickboxer, dude. He's gonna figure out Adesanya's timing and striking. Like, he's a champion in those organizations, and I think he's just gonna have the advantage. Unless Israel mixes it up, he's gonna get figured out, I think. And Pereira has just crazy power. The Strickland fight shows that like he can just lean back and just like at the end of his punches just clock people and just drop them. And it's
Yeah.
scary power, scary accuracy. Like he hit Strickland like two or three times on his way down, and I was like, dude, you like knocked him out three times like in as he's falling. Like,
Yeah, and Izzy not known for his knockout power. He's known for his speed, his accuracy. So we'll see. Is it the speed and accuracy of Izzy, the power of Pereira? I'm picking Izzy on this one. I I feel it kind of similar with Chandler and Poirier matchup. Pereira could end it at any time with his power, but I think the technique and skill of Izzy is going to be enough, and he's going to be able to pull this one out. So those are our picks, and fights will be starting in just a few minutes with the early prelims. Anything else you want to say before we hop off here, Fern?
no, besides the thank you, what's your pick on the Molly McCann fight?
Oh, okay. I'm she's a pretty big underdog on that one, I think,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So for that reason, I'm picking Molly. I feel like it's another. I feel like Blanchfield has the edge,
Hmm.
but not that much of an edge. And I feel like Molly could give the upset. We could see another one of those spinning elbow knockouts from her, or something crazy.
Yeah, I've been super impressed by her as well. She's just charges forward, and I love that. So KO the night, I think, for her, Molly, if somebody on the main card doesn't get it. But other than that, follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're doing more tweets, stuff like that. Follow Zeke Flores. We're sponsoring him again. He's got a fight coming up at the end of the month, and we'll be sharing a lot. But on that, like, follow, share, tell your friend.
So yeah.